What you're about to discover has nothing to do with willpower, nor with ignoring how you feel, nor pretending that everything is fine when it's clearly not. It's not about forcing a positive attitude or fighting every negative thought that crosses your mind. The real key to making sure nothing and no one affects you ever again lies in something much deeper, something most people ignore because they keep searching for answers outside, without realizing that true change always starts within. Maybe you've wondered why some people, no matter what happens, seem to move through life with unshakable calm. It doesn't matter if they're facing crises, loss, or uncertainty. They stay centered. Meanwhile, others break down in everyday situations, trapped in their own emotions and reactions. Why? Is it luck, personality, or is there an unseen principle separating those who master their inner world from those enslaved by it? Here's where most get it wrong. They believe reality is objective, that things just happen, and how they feel is an unavoidable result of what's happening outside. But that's not true. Everything you experience, absolutely everything, is filtered by how you interpret life, by the beliefs you've carried since forever, and by the emotions you never learned to manage. It's like wearing glasses, tinted with a specific color. No matter what's in front of you, you'll always see it through that filter. And if your filter is warped by fear, resentment, or guilt, then the world will reflect exactly that. Not because life is unfair, but because you can't see beyond what lives inside you. But here's the key no one ever told you. It's not about avoiding pain or running from difficult emotions. It's not about becoming immune to everything around you. It's about transforming the meaning you give to each experience, reprogramming how you perceive reality. Learning to turn every challenge into a tool for growth instead of a weight that keeps you stuck. Because the truth is, reality doesn't impose itself. It is interpreted. And once you understand this, once you learn to take control of that interpretation, you discover you can choose how to respond to anything. And in that moment, you become free. Today, I'll show you exactly how to do that. Not abstract theories, but principles used by people who've achieved an inner peace that depends on nothing and no one. You'll learn how to turn fear into clarity, how to make negative emotions work for you, not against you, and how to reach a state of unshakable calm no matter what happens in your life. What you're about to understand can change everything, but only if you're willing to look within and question everything you've taken for granted. Because in the end, it's not what happens that defines your peace. It's how you choose to live it. And when you learn how to change that process, you'll realize nothing and no one will ever be able to control you again. To truly understand ourselves, we must walk through a sacred threshold, but to cross that portal, you must be willing to face the mirror of your own mind and accept everything you find there, not to judge, but to embrace. That's when life begins to shift. You're no longer someone who reacts on autopilot. You're no longer dragged around by your emotions. Now, you're the observer, the one who chooses how to respond to life. And then you realize peace is not something the world can give or take away. It's something you uncover within when you begin to see reality through a different lens. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about learning to be okay, even when chaos surrounds you. It's about remembering that the power you've been chasing out there has always lived inside you, waiting to be claimed. And once you see it, nothing and no one can shake you anymore. Not because you're numb, but because you've made peace with the weight you carry. Sometimes it's not the lack of sleep that keeps you awake, but the emotional weight you haven't processed. A conversation that didn't go as planned, a comment that cut deep, a mistake that still echoes in your mind. And you wonder, why do other people's opinions still have such a hold on me? Why am I still stuck in stories I thought I had already outgrown? The answer doesn't lie outside of you. It's not about what they said or did, but about the way you interpreted their words, how your mind built a narrative around the moment and added it to your identity. That's where the core issue lives. We believe that our pain comes from the outside, from people, from fate, from luck. But Jung made it clear, whatever disturbs you out there is a reflection of something unresolved within. It's not the criticism that hurts. It's the part of you that still doubts your worth. It's not the coldness of others that upsets you. It's the need for validation inside you, still waiting to be heard. And unless you change that route, you'll keep repeating the same emotional cycles. But imagine for a moment, what if instead of reacting, you paused when something triggered you? You take a breath and simply observe what you're feeling, without judgment. You ask, why does this hurt so much? What part of me is reacting? And in doing so, you realize the problem was never the other person, but the story you told yourself about what happened. You see that your fear of rejection didn't start today. It began long ago, when you first connected being loved with being worthy. You realize the guilt you carry isn't really yours. It was born the moment you believed that making a mistake meant you were unworthy. And in that moment, instead of spiraling with thoughts, you choose to act from a different space. Think of another moment. You're in the middle of a heated argument. The voices are rising. Old you would have fought back, raised your tone, let anger lead the way. But this time, you remember Jung's words about the shadow. What irritates you in others is often something you haven't fully embraced in yourself. So you ask, what part of me is feeling this? Is it truly this person causing it, or is it something deeper? And with that question you shift. You're no longer at the mercy of your emotions. You become their master, not by suppressing them, but by choosing how to respond. That small shift creates a massive impact. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and begin to treat every emotion, every conflict, as an invitation to grow. You stop reacting from fear or insecurity and respond from awareness, knowing that no one can truly affect you unless you allow it. And when you reach this point, when you start living from consciousness instead of reactivity, something amazing happens. The problems that once felt overwhelming begin to fade, not because the world changed, but because you did. And here enters one of the most powerful ideas of all, emotional responsibility. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life, and you will call it fate. That means every feeling you have, every thought that crosses your mind, every reaction to what happens around you is a chance to rewrite your story. It's not about denying what you feel. It's about asking, how can I turn this into something that makes me stronger? Picture a time you felt hurt. Maybe someone ignored you when you needed attention. Maybe they said something you took as an attack. Instead of staying trapped in the injustice, try this. Close your eyes and picture that person, not as an enemy, but as an unintentional teacher who showed up to reveal something about yourself. Ask, what part of me created this experience? How can I use it to become stronger? And when you do, you realize the real lesson was never about them. It was about you. You don't need outside approval to feel worthy. You don't need people to change so you can have peace. Everything you were looking for has always been inside. That's the moment the power returns to you, when you stop blaming others for how you feel and start seeing every emotion as a guide. When you realize peace isn't found, it's built. When you understand that the only one who defines who you are and how you feel is you. And in that moment, the world loses its grip on you, because now, for the first time, you're the one in charge. If rejection had no weight in your life, if someone saying no didn't feel like a wound, but simply a closed door redirecting you to another path, if silence from others didn't echo as proof of your inadequacy, but simply as their own distance, their own limits, their own moment, if you could see yourself clearly, without the fog of comparison, without the shadows that others projected onto you, you would finally feel it. You are not broken. You are not behind. You are not less. What holds you back is not reality itself. but the invisible meanings you've attached to it. A look that felt like rejection, a word that sounded like disapproval, a pause that you interpreted as disinterest. You've been carrying wounds that didn't start with you, wounds inherited, learned, absorbed, and those wounds taught you to shrink yourself, to edit your truth, to apologize for being too much or too little. You were trained to abandon your own instincts to gain approval, to read the room, to anticipate the reactions of others, to twist yourself into someone digestible. But who are you when no one is watching? What do you feel when you're not performing? What would you choose if no one had an opinion? There's a voice inside you, small, perhaps, hidden under years of shoulds and musts. But it's there. It's always been. It whispers truths that scare you but also excite you. It dreams beyond the cages you've built to feel safe. It wants you to stop surviving and start living, to live as you are, not as what others expect, to say no without guilt, yes without fear, and I want without apology, to feel everything deeply and not see that as weakness but as your compass, to love without attachment, to lose without losing yourself, to stop waiting for permission to be whole, because the truth is this: you don't need to be chosen by anyone else to be valuable. You don't need to prove anything to be enough. You don't need to be understood by everyone to feel at peace. You are allowed to change, to walk away, to rest, to shine. And when you stop seeing your emotions as enemies, when you stop chasing validation like it's oxygen, when you turn inward and finally listen to what you've been silencing, you begin. Not again, but for real this time. You begin to walk, not fast, not loud, but steady, without trying to prove, without trying to convince. Because now your worth doesn't live in other people's eyes. It lives in your breath, in your choices, in your presence. And when fear visits, and it will, you no longer see it as a stop sign. You sit with it, you ask it what it came to teach, you hold its hand and keep moving anyway. That's courage, not the absence of fear, but walking beside it. Some days, your strength will look like fire, loud, wild, burning. Other days, it will be quiet, getting out of bed, saying, I'm tired, and honoring that. You stop judging your healing by how productive it looks. You start measuring it by how honest you are with yourself. And slowly, the things that used to break you, they begin to lose power. You no longer chase what drains you. You no longer beg to be seen. You become the one who sees yourself clearly, kindly, finally. You begin to trust your energy. The way certain people make you feel heavy for no reason. The way some places pull you into old versions of yourself. The way your body whispers the truth before your mind can explain it. So, you listen. You don't need permission anymore. Not from your past. Not from your pain. Not from anyone. You were never too much. You were simply in rooms that were too small. You were never lost. You were simply walking paths that weren't yours. Now you choose differently, not to be perfect, not to be impressive, but to be real, to be free, to be home in yourself. And now, you don't rise to prove. You rise because you remember who you are. You rise because your story didn't end where it broke. It started there, in the silence, in the shadows, in the ache no one else could feel. You rise because you stopped outsourcing your peace. You stopped waiting for closure that would never come. You learned that healing doesn't always mean justice. Sometimes it just means freedom. You rise not as the person they remember, but as the one you fought to become. Not softer, wiser, not harder, clearer. You no longer carry guilt for outgrowing what kept you small. You no longer apologize for the space you take up. Now you walk with your head held high, not because life is easy, but because your spirit is steady. Your eyes have seen too much to be fooled again. Your heart has bled too long to love halfway. You walk like the storm you survived, with grace, with grit, with gravity. And anyone who meets you now, they don't meet the old you. They meet the fire, They meet the truth. They meet the peace you built with your own hands. This is not the end. This is the return to self, to power, to you.